شخصی بود مفتون محبت الله. امر فرمودند که این ابیات را دائما قرائت و به لحن خوش تلاوت نماید. ای عشق منم از تو سرگشته و سودایی، و در همه عالم مشهور به شیدایی. در نامه مجنونان از نام من آغازند، زین پیش اگر بودم سردفتر دانایی.
I am lost, oh love, possessed and dazed. Love's fool am I in all the earth. They call me first among the crazed, though I once came first for wit and worth. O love, who sellest me this wine, O love, for whom I burn and bleed, love, for whom I cry and pine, thou the piper, I the reed.
The spark ignited by the declaration of the Bab's mission was being fanned into flame by the activities of his appointed disciples. The implications of a revelation thrust so dramatically upon a race so degenerate excited the fiercest passions of fear, hate, rage, and envy. The outrage eventually assumed such proportions that the Shah, unable to ignore the situation, delegated the trusted Vahid to investigate and report to him the situation.
شیراز پرغوغا شود، شکر لبی پیدا شود، ترسم که آشوب لبش برهم زند بغداد را. Shiraz shall tumultuous be, and one sweet-lipped there shall be, the wonders of whose lips shall set Baghdad a-trembling.
The Bab was summoned finally to Tabriz by the Grand Vizier, who issued an order for the immediate assembly of the ecclesiastical dignitaries. Their avowed purpose was to arraign the Bab and deliberate on the steps to be taken for the elimination of his so-called heresy. Their hidden agenda was to consider the most effective means, once and for all, to extinguish the flames of the Bab's pervasive power. Unwittingly, this assembly gave him the supreme opportunity of his mission to assert in public, formally and without any reservation, the claims inherent in his revelation. The Bab arrived amidst the throes of wild excitement by those followers who joyously hailed his arrival in Tabriz. Having seated himself in the chief place which had been reserved for the heir to the throne, the Bab gave his celebrated answer to the question put to him by the president of that assembly.
I am the promised one. I am the one whose name you have for 1,000 years invoked, at whose mention you have risen, whose advent you have longed to witness, and the hour of whose revelation you have prayed God to hasten. Verily I say, it is incumbent upon the peoples of both the East and the West to obey my word and to pledge allegiance to my person.
Relentless persecution would follow. 4 months before the martyrdom of the Bab, 7 of his disciples were martyred in Tehran. Among them was his maternal uncle who had raised him. In his eulogy, the Bab refers to these 7 martyrs as the 7 goats of Islamic tradition, who on the day of judgment would walk in front of the promised Gaim, and whose death would precede the impending martyrdom of their true shepherd. The Bab himself had foreshadowed his own approaching death in one of his last works. He alluded to the fact that the 6th Nowruz after the declaration of his mission would be the last one he was destined to celebrate on earth. In the Qayyum al-Azma, he actually prophesied the end of his glorious career. Well aware of the impending trials that were to afflict him, the Bab confided in a letter to his wife the secret of what was to befall him and revealed to her a special prayer. He assured her that the reading of it would resolve her perplexities and allay her sorrows. The time of the Bab's inevitable martyrdom by firing squad finally came. The historian Nabil records the events of the previous evening.
That night, the face of the Bab was aglow with joy, a joy such as had never shone from his countenance. He said,
"Tomorrow will be the day of my martyrdom. Would that one of you might now arise and with his own hands end my life. I prefer to be slain by the hand of a friend rather than by that of the enemy."
Tears rained from our eyes as we heard him express that wish. We shrank, however, at the thought of taking away with our own hands so precious a life. We refused and remained silent. Anis suddenly sprang to his feet and announced himself ready to obey whatever the Bab might desire. As soon as we had intervened and forced him to abandon that thought, the Bab declared,
"This same youth who hath risen to comply with my wish will together with me suffer martyrdom. Him will I choose to share with me its crown."
Anis had the honor of being martyred with the Bab because of his obedience to his Lord. Through this action, another Islamic prophecy was fulfilled. An Islamic tradition says, "The first and the last shall become one." The Shia Muslims believe God has 2 names, and these names are made out of Ali and Muhammad. The Bab's given name was Ali Muhammad, and Anis's given name was Muhammad Ali. At the death by firing squad of the Bab and Anis, the mutilated bodies became one and inseparable. Ali Muhammad and Muhammad Ali. The first and the last became one.
قل الله يكفي كل شيء عن كل شيء ولا يكفي عن الله ربك من شيء لا في السماوات ولا في الأرض ولا ما بينهما إنه كان اللهم كافيا قديرا.